A lighthouse known as the Flannan Isle Lighthouse is a small group of islands in Scotland's Outer Hebrides, about 32 kilometers west of the Isle of Lewis. It is located close to the island's highest point. A 75-foot lighthouse designed by David Allen Stevenson was constructed between 1895 and 1899 for the Northern Lighthouse Port NLB. The first evidence that something wasn't right on the Flannan Isles was established on December 15, 1900, when the crew of the steamship Arctic saw and noted in its log that there was no light coming from the Flannan Isles lighthouse. On December 18, 1900, the incident was reported to the Northern Lighthouse Board when the ship anchored off the coast of Leith, Scotland. James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur were the three persons in charge of the lighthouse. The Hesperus, a ship created specifically to support and maintain lighthouses, was dispatched to carry out the investigation on December 20th and attempted to reach the island, but was unable due to bad weather. Around noon on December 26th, it finally made it to the island. The relieving keeper and crew of the Hesperus discovered that the flagpole had no flag. Jim Harvey, the ship's captain, tried to warn the lighthouse keepers by blowing his horn and setting up a flare. There was silence. Joseph Moore, a relief keeper, got off the Hesperus and was brought ashore on his own. When Moore arrived, the access gate and main door of the compound were closed. The ship's crew found the beds were not made and the wall clock had stopped. They uncovered a set of oilskins and learned that the lights had been cleaned and refilled, indicating that one of the keepers may have left the lighthouse without them. Moore brought the bad news back to the Hesperus captain about his observations. 2 more seamen were ordered by Captain Harvey for a more in-depth investigation. Hesperus went back to Lewis, leaving Moore and 3 volunteer seamen on the island to tend to the light. The Northern Lighthouse Board received a telegram from Captain Harvey on December 26, 1900. The men searched every inch of Isle Moor for signs of the whereabouts of the keepers. They found no damage at the East Landing, but there it was easy to see how recently a strong storm had destroyed the West Landing. The contents of a supply box are scattered across the ground. Despite being more than 100 feet above sea level, grass has also been pulled out of the cliff's tops, which are 200 feet above sea level. A portion of the railroad track had been broken from its concrete moorings. Iron railings on the side of the road had been bent and twisted, and a huge rock weighing more than a ton had been moved. Robert Muirhead, the director of the Northern Lighthouse Board, started an investigation into the disappearance of the keepers. As soon as he arrived on the island on December 29th, he hired all 3 of them, who were all well known to him. When he inspected the clothing inside the lighthouse, he came to the conclusion that Marshall and Duckett must have gone outside into the storm to attempt to protect the equipment at the western landing, but had instead been carried away by the violent storm. He examined the oilskin that had been left and found that it belonged to William MacArthur. Muirhead assumed that MacArthur, who was only wearing a shirt and no oilskins, a sign that one of the males had left the house without protection from the rain. Due to the bad weather, their disappearance was officially considered an accident, which had a negative effect on the lighthouse's reputation. MacArthur left a wife and 2 children. Duckett left behind a wife and 4 children, while Thomas Marshall was a bachelor. Strange and outrageous theories circulated, such as the men were slain by a ghost ship known locally as the Phantom of the Second Hunters, abducted by a sea serpent, or imprisoned by foreign spies or pirates. It was also said that they had prepared a stealth ship to transport them all to new lands where they might start new lives. The 3 guys may have gotten into a disagreement on the western landing, which might have led to all 3 of them plunging to their deaths from the cliffs. MacArthur allegedly killed the other 2, threw their corpses into the water, and then killed himself. In addition, it was said that unusual comments in Marshall's handwriting in the logs indicated that the weather was the worst he had seen in 20 years. Duckett was very silent. MacArthur had been crying, and the 3 men had all been praying. Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all, according to the last entry in the log, which was made on December 15th. Such entries were never made, according to a later investigation, and were probably fabricated to make the story seem more spectacular. There were no storms recorded on the island, and the weather was reportedly calm. Storms just reached the island on December 17th. On December 15th, 1900, 3 male lighthouse keepers made the last entries in the logbook. The lighthouse was in fine condition, showing the men had finished their day's work before they vanished. No clue where they were headed or what would happen to them, and there were never any remains found. More than a century after the incident, the mystery surrounding the disappearance is still unsolved. It remains one of the most remarkable events in Scottish maritime history. The end.